Let's do this.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're watching. I hope that you're having a great day, and I hope that my show, this little Coffee with Toffees podcast you're listening to, it makes it a little bit better. My name's Toffees. You can find me at Toffees TV. I do want to give a big shout out to our sponsors, Razer and Asus Republic of Gamers, for giving us the equipment to make this show possible, and most importantly, Unicorn, the betting site that only offers safe, regulated, and legal betting outside of the States. They require all bettors to be of legal gambling age, even if you're using just play money. I know they take pride in providing a responsible outlet for engaging in esports, and by engaging it means they're just as happy if you're doing the play money as the real money, and just want us to kind of support esports having a good time and doing it safely. So check them out. If you want to put in Toffee Special, you get some free coins to try the play thing and see if it works for you. If not, I'm sure they understand. Anyway, let's talk about why we are here today. I have a special guest that I brought on the show. As you know here at Coffee with Toffees, one of my favorite things to do is reach out to community members who you've heard of or you've seen their work, but you might not have had a chance to put a face to the name or sort of hear about more details behind what they do. So the gentleman sitting next to me is none other than Michael Tortellini Cohen. Chances are you've probably used his guides, at least when you were starting out in Dota. Welcome to the show, Michael. It's good to have you.
Hi, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No problem. I'm glad that you stopped by. I'm glad that everything seems to be good. If you were here for the earlier show, guys, we had a few technical hiccups, but they seem to be fixed now, and we are cruising right along. Now, I want to start out by saying I am a guide user. Even after I stopped following guides after my first year or so of playing, I have still loved the convenience of your guides because they provide me with sort of like a quick by summary, suggestions. They're a really good transition out of that I don't know anything to the I know everything phase of Dota playing, I think. So thank you for that. I appreciate the work you put into it.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to help. I'm glad you actually use it, in whatever capacity that is. Yeah, thanks. I'm glad you enjoy them, and thanks for having me on again.
No problem. All right, so I have been watching. You started a Patreon, which I know you were tentative about, around 6 months to a year ago. And some of the ups and downs with updating guides for a while, and with the new show and the chance to showcase community people, I knew I wanted to have you stop by. So you have been very transparent with anybody who's interested, whether it's your AMAs or sort of Patreon updates on a yearly basis and letting people know what they're invested in, what the numbers are like, who's using the product. I wanted to reach out to those who maybe aren't into reading the sort of the walls of text and let them hear your story a little bit. So for 3 years, you've created guides essentially for every single hero in the game that are not only functional and flexible, but they're also dependably updated for every patch and every meta shift. That's a lot of work as far as I can guess, because there's 113 heroes in the game right now. How much work is it to keep that updated?
113 heroes. I do about 155 guides plus dual builds, which is another 12, so 167, right?
Wow. Okay.
More or less. It's a lot of work. Thankfully and unfortunately, the guides are down for about a month now, so haven't had that much quite to do right now. But when they come back up, it's going to be a little more heavily in demand, especially on my end, to get everything back up to date to what's expected, especially after TI, which usually sets a lot of meta trends, patch and upcoming patches as well. In terms of daily work, it's like 3 to 4 hours a day, every day. That's not including, the days where a patch is released. When a patch is released, it's like 24 to 48 hours of nonstop work, just to get all the guides up to date. And then it's a 2-week rollout period of constant feedback, testing, and observation to ensure the guides are, functioning, that they reflect accurately the ever-changing meta, and it's just a lot of testing as well. I have about 5,000 games, 6,000 hours, so it's a lot of testing, and it's pretty demanding. I've been doing it since February 2013, so good 4 years and a half.
At 3 hours a day, plus whatever play tests have to happen. The real question, I think, is, do you have time to play Dota for fun anymore?
Well, testing the guides is kind of fun. I suck, so I'm pretty amateur. So I have favorite heroes, but I'm not particularly good beyond the three that I enjoy. I don't know if I really have fun per se in the sense that I'm just kicking it. It's more like the idea of progress and testing guides and overall getting to improve them and seeing game from an analytical standpoint is another passion or enjoyment that I have.
Okay, so and that was I think my next question is it sounds like a lot of work for very little recognition. So what about this? Because you've been doing it since you said it's like 2013. What
Yeah.
about this makes it worthwhile, worth the work that you put into it?
It's that's a pretty good question. It's about the passion. It's about how much I enjoy the game. It's another reason for me to keep playing Dota 2, on top of everything else that I do. Sorry.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, sorry. I thought there was a bit of a cutoff there.
No.
Yeah. So I was saying, the main reason I do these guys is for the mentions and the some recognition that I receive from the community on a day-to-day basis. Even the criticism that I receive or the feedback that I get that can be sometimes harsh or unruly. It's still, more attention that I would have received doing something completely unrelated. It's an appreciation, or whether it's an appreciation that I've changed the meta, or I guess that's a little pontificating, but appreciation that I've helped people, enjoy the game. That on a day-to-day basis, I can help them understand the game better. Whether that's in the right direction or not, that's entirely up to people to interpret. But I guess the bottom line is really that is to say that for a small fraction or for a small time of their day, for an hour every day, when they go to play their favorite game or a challenging game like Dota 2, that I get to be part of their day just for like a small moment. They go through the guides, they look for a guy that they can trust, and hopefully that's me, and that I get to be a part of that. Just whether that's on a daily basis or less, it's more than I could ever be a part of for many people that come to know and reach out.
So along the topic of helping people help people, right? So you help them enjoy their game more. A way that people now can sort of help you enjoy what you're doing or support what you're doing is this Patreon campaign you put together. I know that you were reticent about launching a crowdfunding support platform initially, but it seems like it's been pretty successful. I think you're in excess of about $500 a month right now. But what about doing that gave you pause? Like, what made you think twice about starting the campaign? Seems like people are willing to start them for no reason. You know what I mean?
It's a lot. For the first, I started in just December 2015, so the first 2 years plus, 2 years, 3 years, I wasn't really doing. I was just doing it out of fun. I didn't want to convince people to ask, for money or support. I don't really depend on it personally. It's mainly just a way of, answering some people's desires to support me or support this project in any way that they could. I always say, feedback is first and foremost the best, whether, at whatever level you are. Just telling me what you think about a build, or just telling me how the build could be better, or what you'd like to see in the build is pretty great. It reduces my work pretty greatly in that regard. But, a lot of my friends egged me on to start a Patreon. They said, it's worthwhile for those who want to get involved on a different level, or, have the extra income in exchange for the less amount of time to dedicate to improving in Dota. So I started a Patreon mainly just to, improve the project. I don't, there's no self-gain out of it. There's no personal value. Anything that I receive is naturally put back into the project, either as a savings account, so it's in a completely separate account, or used for future expansions. We just hit our 500. You mentioned it before. We hit our $500 bank. I guess $500 goal or whatever. There you go. So we're gonna be looking to developing a website, looking for someone to hire and pay them at a reasonable wage to help develop this website. After that, I think it's $1,000 is our next goal. Next is going to be, doing monthly web videos, either about the game or about the heroes, or in whatever capacity they could help users or that they're interested in. I don't promote too much to Patreon because I'm not too strong about, having people support me as if I'm gonna terminate the project, if I don't get enough money or XYZ. But yeah, people. I mean, it was asked for, and after much consideration, I decided to just do it, and not to be too spammy about it. I put it up anytime. Anytime I make a public post about the guides, and otherwise, you don't really see me mention it all that much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the show, we'll mention it for you guys who are tuned in. So if you're not going to watch the whole thing, go to the back end and get the plug. That said, though, I have noticed you said you sort of would do this even if people weren't paying you, which is interesting to me because I've noticed a sense of entitlement, perhaps, by a lot of players towards your guides, insofar as they tweet you or make forum posts about how slow your updates are, or how wrong the builds are, or any number of things. Does this frustrate you and make it hard to do make it hard to be motivated to do the job?
I mean, if anything, it's just a display of demand, which, in a sense, I guess I should remain complimented about. I used to get I still do actually, but I got a lot of messages like when Arc Warden came out, like in 2000, I don't know, was it January 2016 or 15?
Something in that ballpark, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a year ballpark, so it's pretty.
Well, I meant January. I think January was the ballpark. Yeah, 2016.
I was on a vacation to the Grand Canyon, and Arc Warden had just come out, and I got a flood of messages, and it was at that point that I was really dedicating myself to updating these guides and really cutting into my personal time into updating it. So on my road to the Grand Canyon, I would literally sit on a tiny bus with my little laptop, reading all the guide notes, taking notes on everything I was going to update. And I think I spent like 6-8 hours just thinking about guides, thinking about how to improve Arc Warden. And then I saw the Grand Canyon. It was about an hour. At 2 hours, I recommend it for anyone. And on the way back, I was still, reading patch notes, figuring out what would be ideal. No internet service or whatever. No way to really gauge the value of it. And then as soon as I got home, I spent the next like 12, 13 hours like updating guides and trying to follow through on all this demand and expectation. And after that, I completely lost my spirit in terms of updating guides because I felt, it was completely taken over my life for something that was just supposed to be for fun. And at that point, the guide system was just absolutely neglected and atrocious. So I think after that, I really started reconsidering how I was dedicating my time to the guides towards the rest of my life, whether it's personal time or my own career in esports. And yeah, right now it's at a good place. Patches have been coming out a little bit faster than usual, so it's a little uncomfortable. But I'm learning to, not update the guides after a patch 2 days after it's released. I'm learning to, take a week if I have to. I'm learning that, no one else is putting any effort in anyway right now. So why do I have to rush it in view of demand? It comes when it comes, etc. And yeah, and for consequences, guides are still growing in terms of subscriptions. This year it's been 5 to 6 million every 2 weeks. So, no, to answer your question, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Speaking of the metrics you just brought up, that's a huge subscription base. You track your metrics very, very cleanly. I've looked at some of the stuff you've sent over and you published online, and it tells you literally everything you need to know about how people are using the guides. Is there an end game goal for the project? I mean, can you sell sponsorships like Juggernaut build brought to you by Tabasco? Is there something like that in the future potentially?
No, I tried back in 6.88 when it was possible to. There are different ways to implement either branding or imagery outside of the Steam community system. I put up several mock-ups of impressions and ways that it could scale up for brands, and I tried it out with a few friends, some people I know in the industry, and the reality is that the metrics that I'm able to track in comparison to what the metrics sponsors are looking for are just not on par with one another. So geolocation matters a lot, per day, per month, impressions matter a lot. Yeah, and so you can make a lot of implications with the stats that I collect, but it's not concrete enough for a sponsor. And in game, they don't allow any HTML or BBC code to enter, so all they would get is just text branding, which it's not significant enough for a lot of sponsors.
Fair enough. All right, maybe one day we'll see like a C9.tortellini guide. We'll see.
So
Go ahead.
In terms of end game, I don't think there is an end game. It stops when I don't feel the passion anymore, or when I feel there's sufficient competition to compensate my absence, or simply that it's just too much, and there's nowhere to go from there. I used to previously write that, these guys brought me nothing, hasn't made me any connections or anything. But as of recently, it's helped me out. It's gotten me a TI7 invite. I assume that's the reason, unless there's some other major attribute or quality that I have that I've not been told of, which is not, I have so few of them that usually people tell me when they find something.
Right.
So yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. There's no real end goal. Just, one day, 1 year, every year I reconsider of quitting or not. And, 2017 is going to roll around. I'm going to think about, if I can keep going or not. And, yeah, that's it.
So my next question was sort of about burnout and stuff like that. I know that at the end of 2016, you were also struggling a little bit with the slowdown on the project. But it sounds like you've answered that. Like, it's sort of you keep getting your second wind, but it's only going to last as long as necessary. Have you had a chance? So are you at a point now, because I remember after 7.0, I think it was, the whole guide system was just boinked, right? Like it was completely jacked up. Have you gotten to a point where you're actually able to interface with Valve directly to talk about changes that need to be made? Do they use you as a resource in any way?
Yeah, I guess I'll reveal that. Back in 2016, mid 2016, I was on the point of quitting. As you said before, 7.1, 7.0, 7.01, 7.012, 7.02 were pretty broken in terms of guides. There wasn't really any way to update your guides, or if you did release a new guide, it wouldn't show up at all because it was completely dysfunctional. And then at that point, I had already started reporting bugs to Valve for a good bit now. But only now that I receive a direct contact that was much more hands-on, much more involved, and I don't know if I should say his name or not, but I think he knows very well that I'm very appreciative of his or their involvement. I'm sure there's more than one person involved on this. And then it's picked up from there. I can't really say too much about that coming up, but a lot of the patches coming out, you see a lot of system changes. The new guide listing has been updated so that 2017 guides, 7.0 guides are showing up first before the highly popular Gray Shark 2013 guide. So that's the work of them really paying attention and getting involved and reworking the whole system. So I guess stay tuned until until the whole thing's wrapped up. I guess that's all I can say.
Well, and I think this is something that I think is important that we don't talk about enough, right? Like it makes me frustrated too, because it feels like Valve almost hurts itself in some ways with the community, because like you were like, I don't know if I should talk about this or if I should say names, but that's the kind of thing that we as a community want to hear, right? We want to hear, yes, someone at Valve reached out to somebody who designs guides and said, it's broken, help us fix it, and was willing to listen, because that's what reminds us that Valve does care about the community outside of just bringing in the cash roll, right? And it's something that, and this is a mini soapbox for everybody who's listening. I joined Dota back around TI3 time, and when we talked about TIs previous to TI3, we talked about Valve does this for the community. Valve does this because they love us for playing the game. Valve does this because they love the players. And I feel like over the last few years, the community's become more and more jaded, I think, towards like the arcanas and what feels like money grabs or chests that aren't as cool or whatever. And we forget that Valve is still trying to reach out to the community. So this is the kind of thing that I like hearing, that they did something like included a workshop creator at TI6 and made places for them, that they reached out to guide creators and helped make the system better. So I'm glad that you were willing to share that. Hopefully people are willing to talk about that stuff more often, or maybe just Valve removes the gag order on the cool stuff that they do, and lets us sort of see behind the curtain every once in a while. But go ahead.
There's no real gag order. It's just
right.
Respect of the trust and communication of what we share between one another.
Right.
I felt what I shared was not significant enough for them. I guess actually I don't want to make any hypothetical or assumptions on this. I feel overall that the disheartening about Valve is justified on one side, but also that they've always communicated through finished products and design and follow through on that, in terms of improving it based on feedback that they read, let's say on Reddit or even Dev Dota forums. So yeah, there's no real gag order. They didn't tell me please don't share this, please don't share that.
Right.
It's more just respect for the communication and let them present what they're doing
Right.
the way they want to do it rather than hijacking it for my own self credit or whatever that.
I dig it. I dig it. I just wish they'd tell us more often or do something for their own self credit. That's it. What do you do when you're not thinking about Dota?
Oh, geez. You mean like my other work?
Yeah, or like, what do you enjoy? Like, do you play another game? I mean, so you spend, I imagine, 3 hours working on Dota, probably multiple hours to and from work and stuff, thinking about updates and builds and all the other crap. Like, is there a time in your day where you get to sit down with a bowl of marinara and spaghetti and think about something besides Dota? And if so, what do you enjoy?
I just launched the company. I just launched an esports media site company, and I'm working with eSports Holding.
Okay.
Who are a great company, great group of people over in Moscow, Russia. They're absolutely amazing to work with and to learn from. So if I'm not working on guides, I'm really looking at improving this business that I've started at cybersport.com. Small plug there. Hope you don't mind.
No, you can plug as much as you want, man.
But yeah, that's pretty much what's taken up the most amount of time. We launched about a month or two ago. I started working on this project since September 2016. So yeah, I didn't realize the challenges that came to starting a whole business, especially in esports. So as of right now, that's pretty much a hobby / challenge and / another project of mine that I'm really enjoying. Besides that, I don't really have a lot of time. I get to play a couple games and that's it.
So your life revolves around esports, essentially. That's a lot. Now, talking about esports, life's revolving around it. You had something happen that I wasn't aware of when we booked the show. When I asked you to be on the show, I just wanted to talk about guides, and then they released the talent list for TI, and down there on the bottom, in the part where they sort of get some new talent or analysts or whatever it is, they just had a little section that said Tortellini, Michael Cohen, official talent for TI. It didn't really tell me what you were doing, though. So, congratulations on what is I think for some people in the Dota scene, like a life goal, right? To be on that page when it comes out. So that's pretty cool. But what are you doing when you're there?
See, because I got a lot of shit for the invite when
because you're not Coddle Guy or whatever.
I mean, just because people felt I didn't merit or they didn't quite grasp on what level I deserved an invite or not. But I don't really want to say what I'm doing. Not only because not only because it hasn't been revealed, but also because it goes along with Valve's form of communication. They rather just show people what they're doing rather than saying, "Oh, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing this." So for me to hijack what they're planning to do, either with myself or with other people, would be discrediting to what they're ultimately planning overall. But yeah, I'm really honored for the invite. Looking forward to meeting all the great people, both who have been part of Dota 2 for so many years and the people I've admired for so long, and also the new faces who will be there alongside myself.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you're doing something specific. It doesn't sound like they just sent you a general invite and said, "Hey, Tortellini, come on out." It sounds like a plan that PGL/Valve has in play. I'm not going to make you say anything. I am going to make sweeping generalizations that PGL and Valve have something cool in the works that they think that your particular expertise would be valuable towards. That's interesting. No hints. I'm trying to read your face. Okay. All right. Well, I guess we got to watch TI now. Here I was going to skip the whole thing, but apparently I'm going to have to watch it.
Please watch TI. Give me feedback. Write some public feedback. That's really the best way to know what works and what doesn't work. No real hints. I really don't want to screw it up with what they've given me in terms of
Right.
opportunity.
Yeah, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to get pulled from the show halfway through and never invited back.
Yeah.
Nobody
Well,
wants that
yeah,
to happen, James.
I don't expect to be invited back regardless of, how well or what I may aim to achieve. I've learned really early enough to really not set any expectations
Mm,
not to set my own expectations on other people or other organizations, because they have something completely else
hmm
set in their mind, and they have a different system than what I've maybe interpreted or misinterpreted. And I think that goes along for a lot of people who, set these standards or expectations for how they interpret XYZ event that's not theirs. And then,
Right.
they get angry when those expectations are broken, when no one has really confirmed that what they're really looking into is not entirely true. But yeah.
Fair enough. All right. So let's do. I think that's pretty much all that I wanted to sort of talk about with you, since we're sort of keeping stuff on the down low for TI. Maybe after the TI ends, we can come back and do a quick follow up to talk about
Yeah.
what you did and how it worked out and get some community feedback. What would you say if you could address all of those people who do use your guides and give you feedback, whether it's good or bad? Like if you can address them directly and just give them a message on your behalf, what would you say?
Oh well, anyone who's ever reached out to me know I answer back probably immediately or within the day. Always expressing gratitude, always expressing sincere appreciation. If I had a direct message for them, it would always be something more. It would always be saying, thank you for your trust, thank you for your communication and your admiration for everything I do, and it's the primary reason that I'm still doing this 4.5 to 9 months years later. And without all your kind words and sometimes harsh criticism, I wouldn't be doing this today. So I'd like to thank all 250 million subscriptions, and I'm
That's a lot
always
of
available
subscriptions.
to what you have to say.
That's a lot of subscriptions. So very, very cool. I appreciate you stopping by. I've loved seeing the
Thank you.
evolution of the guide system. As you know, I've been using them or at least glancing at them for a long time. And it's nice to see that you've had an impact and that people are willing to say the good as often as the bad. Too often that gets lost in the internet world that we live in. Your pick. What's your pick for TI? Do you think anything interesting is going to happen? Any teams that we were unexpected are going to show up out of nowhere, or you think it's just going to be all around good Dota?
Um.
Fair enough.
No, yeah, I'll give a proper answer. I think VP is gonna win it, but I'm a little biased because I love VP. Love all the guys there. I love all the guys behind VP and all the guys who are representing VP. But I also think it's either gonna be VP, OG, or Team Liquid. I think those are my three. I'm hoping the Chinese pull it through and manage to come above it all. I'm also hoping the South Americans also pull it through as well, because I would like to see more South Americans represented at future events.
Yeah, you want to see growth in the scene. We saw what happened last year after Demon's team did so well. The whole scene grew exponentially. So yeah, I agree with that. I would have said yes to VP as well, but they all said no to my interview request. So now I think OG is probably going to win for sure. And I would have said VP second, but now we got C9. So now that's a guaranteed second place for Cloud9.
Oh yeah, touche.
Right? Can't fight it. That's what they do best. So it's one of those things where, it's funny. The C9 second place meme was almost an insult or like sucks to be you, 2-3 years ago. But now when like tournaments are worth $22 million, the guys are like, dude, I know that they want to win because that's all that matters. But when you walk out with a $5 million paycheck for second place, I don't know, that's still pretty awesome. But
I got to touch the Navi Aegis when they won back at
Nice.
Epicenter in Moscow, and it was like, I don't know why. I mean, it was the most unbelievable thing, the most incredible moment in a while that I've ever felt when I got to touch it and see,
Yeah.
all the Navi names behind that shield.
Yeah, I can't imagine the rush of hoisting the shield, right? Like the idea that in that brief moment with the fireworks and the confetti and the lights and the fans, you hoist the shield, and despite the fanfare, there has to be this moment where you realize, holy shit, we are the best 5 Dota players in the world. We did it. And like that's got to be it's got to be mind blowing. So it's cool to touch. I imagine touching it sort of channels a little bit of that. Sometimes I hoist my my little Aegis here, the little pin they gave me, and pretend, but it's just not the same, Michael. It's just not the same. Well, go ahead. What?
Needs to be a little bigger.
Yeah, I have the collector's Aegis from TI5, but that's I don't want to take it out of the box, so I've been meaning to try to get people to sign it, but I never get around to it. That said, I want to give you a chance to give a plug in a second. Before I do, though, I want to say thank you to you, thank you to Unicorn, especially thank you to Razer, and thank you to Ace Republica Gamers for making the show possible, and thank you to viewers like you. You guys are the ones who make me do the show. I do it because you watch it, so check out the YouTube, check out the podcast. It's coffeew/Toffees on Stitcher as well as iTunes, and if you do want to support the show a little bit here and there helps, you can go to patreon.com/Toffees, and donor rewards include things like coffee mugs, mouse pads, high fives, you name it. We'll make sure that you're taken care of. So if you want to support the show and its continuance, please feel free to do that there. Now, Michael, where can people find you and how can they support you?
They can find me anywhere, really. I'm on Reddit, Tortellini. They can find me on Twitter, twitter.com/Tortellini. You already mentioned the Patreon/Tort. If they really want to support me and they don't really want to, either through a financial means or want to get feedback, they can always go to the website I'm starting up, cybersport.com. We're pushing out a lot of content. We're going to be doing coverage for the International Sevens. So any feedback or any thoughts about some of the features that we're writing is great. We're really looking to improve the content that we're writing as well as the news, as well as the site design. Other than that, I'm pretty much everywhere. I'm still a community member. Have been since 2010. So yeah, hit me up wherever you see me, and if you see me at TI, make sure to say hello. I'd love to meet more and more Dota fans.
Absolutely, and I've heard he's been practicing his autographs. So make sure you ask him for an autograph and a photo of some sort.
I've never signed a thing in my life. Get out of here.
You know what? I hadn't either, and I never even thought about practicing. Like, my name's clearly not Toffees in real life, right? Like, yeah. Who the fuck signs their screen name? And then I went to TI5, I think it was, and I was just wandering around, like, just chatting with people and hanging out. People started asking me for my autograph, and I was like, I looked over. I think Cap was a little ways off, and I was like, Cap, what are you signing? And he goes, Capitalist. So I just like made up a Toffees signature. Yeah, I just like made up a Toffees signature on the spot, but apparently that's a thing. So you might want to consider it so you're not caught with your pants down and wicked confused if you get asked.
Any fan I meet, I always take a picture because everyone wants a picture with like whoever they enjoy or admire. Right. But I'm the opposite. I always take pictures of fans and I always post it up on my Twitter because I would love meeting people. Period.
There you go. So if you guys want free hits and like retweets and stuff, just go find Tort and take a picture.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, I got a mug from a
really.
I got a mug in Kiev from a fan.
That's cool.
I don't know if I don't really like calling them fans because it feels like I'm someone of importance who should have fans. But I got a mug from a friend. I'm calling him a friend. From a friend in Kiev. He had made this mug especially for me. He had made sure to spell that correctly with me. It was fantastic mug. I still have it.
Just be careful. If you start calling 2.5 million people friends, they're going to think you're running a cult of some sort. So you did your shout outs. Do you have anybody you want to shit on or any call outs you want to do or anything else you want to say before we log out for the night?
Nah, unfortunately, I'm not one to publicly air my laundry. I'm all good. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun.
No problem. If you ever have anything you want to talk about or want to come on back, we'd love to have you. I appreciate you stopping by. Again, thanks everybody for coming and watching. This has been another episode of Coffee with Toffees. We got some more in the pipeline, though. I'm going to warn you all, it's probably going to slow down over the next couple of weeks. Everyone's flying out to TI. They got bigger things to do. As most of you know, I will be watching TI from home this year. We don't have as well. Presumably, it's not uncommon to get calls like a week before to go do stuff for production there.
Really?
Yeah, there was 1 year. I went 1 year to do interviews for an organization, and they called me, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 days beforehand, and we're like, "Hey,
so expensive."
Well, they needed an interviewer. They wanted to create the content. They found the budget. So I mean, usually in that situation, I work pretty cheap. I'm like, yeah, just pay for my food and my board and my ticket, and I'll work. Obviously, I just want to be at TI. So I think that's why they did it. But that said, it's not out of the question, but it is highly unlikely I will be there. which means not a ton of interview content until after TI, but it does mean that I might do some public watch stuff. We might do some live tweeting. So definitely check out the Twitter, Toffees TV, and I'll be involved with the TI process in terms of chatting with you guys and anything that you might have question-wise. So thanks for watching. Have a wonderful night and a pleasant tomorrow. And don't forget, guys, play more Dota. As always, Toffees out.
Thanks again.
No problem, man.